What is Empower America, and what does it have to do with Mitt Romney's vice presidential pick, Paul Ryan? We have brought in Jerry Seib. He is host of the D.C. Bureau, and he's going to explain this to us. Welcome to Lunch Break, Jerry. Appreciate your stopping by.
Happy to be here.
Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney's VP pick over the weekend, he cut his teeth politically in shaping his thoughts about policy during another time when the Republicans were sort of struggling to define their economic message. Fascinating column by you. Describe what he did.
Well, it was 1993. The Republicans had lost everything. Bill Clinton had beaten George H.W. Bush, and he was president. The Democrats were clearly in control of both the House and the Senate. And more importantly, the Reagan era looked as if it was over because Ronald Reagan was gone. George H.W. Bush, his vice president, had just lost. It seemed as if an era had ended. And there were some Republicans, Bill Bennett, Jack Kemp, Gene Kirkpatrick, Vin Weber, who wanted to prolong the era in the sense of keeping Reagan ideas alive and updating them for the new political scene. And they formed this group called Empower America, which was a small, not widely known think tank designed to do exactly that. And one of their first hires was a guy who was then a 22-year-old former congressional staffer who had also lost his job because his boss had gotten beat. His name was Paul Ryan. And he went to work and attached himself to Jack Kemp. And he was only there for a couple of years, but they were very important formative years in the Paul Ryan we know today.
And at the time, there were sort of two schools of thought then. That one that emphasized balancing the budget above all else, even if it meant tolerating some tax increases. Right. But then there was the other side, which meant, that growth was tantamount to everything, that had to be done. And even if you had higher deficits for a while, that was okay. Paul Ryan went, as we know, that way.
Right, because that was the Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp became, in the post-Reagan era, the guy who preached that growth is everything gospel in the Republican Party. It seems like it's natural now that everybody talks about economic growth, but you're right. Back then, there was a wing of the Republican Party, the more traditional wing of the Republican Party, and some of the newcomers who thought, our job is to balance the budget. People were as worried about budget deficits then as they are now, even though they were much smaller. And there was a part of the party that said, that's our job, is whatever it takes, let's balance the budget. The Jack Kemp wing said, that's not our job. Our job is to create economic growth. And I don't care if there are deficits for a while. Eventually, economic growth will generate so much revenue, that'll take care of the deficits. But growth produces jobs and produces American competitiveness. And I don't care about the deficits as much as I care about growth. And that's where Paul Ryan came from. Now, he's ventured a little bit away from that. He probably worries more about the deficit now than Jack Kemp did then. But still, those are the philosophical underpinnings.
And the fascinating thing about Paul Ryan, and this is no small thing, you point this out in your column, he delivers all of this with a smile.
Yeah.
Now, why is that so important, Jerry?
Well, look, I mean, there was a long time in
literally
which,
a smile.
No, and Jack Kemp did the same thing, and I think that's one of the reasons, frankly, I suspect that's one of the reasons Mitt Romney picked Paul Ryan, because he has a conservative message that people aren't afraid of. And I think there was a tendency for a long time in the 80s and 90s for conservatives to appear angry. Social conservatives appeared angry that the country was drifting away from cultural values they had grown to love, and that economic conservatives were basically lecturing people. We shouldn't have deficits and we should have lower taxes, and they seemed scowling when they did it. Jack Kemp said, this is an optimistic message. This isn't an eat your peas message. This is an optimistic message about economic growth, and we should all be happy to hear it. And that's kind of what Paul Ryan is in style as well as in substance.
Hearing over the weekend that the Republicans happy about the choice, by and large, of Paul Ryan. Democrats saying they're happy, too, because it gives President Obama an opening to go after him, to go after Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, particularly with the women block of voters. Why is that, Jerry?
Well, Medicare and seniors, because Paul Ryan would basically change the Medicare program. That's going to be used to scare seniors. And women, because he's got a very sort of conservative social issues record on abortion and on things like equal pay for women. Democrats are going to use that, and that's another reason why I think some people, myself included, frankly, thought in the end Mitt Romney would shy away from Paul Ryan, but he didn't. The women's vote is really important here. Barack Obama has a huge advantage among women, or has an advantage among women, and a huge advantage among college-educated suburban women, which he really needs, because the flip side of an advantage among women is Mitt Romney's got an advantage among men. And given the Romney problems with younger voters and with Hispanics, he's going to have to keep that advantage with men and make some inroads among women. Democrats are going to use the Ryan choice to try to prevent that from happening.
And you think Romney and Paul Ryan are at least at this point, fairly similar in their thinkings on these issues.
In what they say. I mean, the question about Mitt Romney has always been, what does he believe about things like a pro-life message? Is that where he was before? That's where he is now. And on even some of the tax issues, the question with Mitt Romney has always been not what does he say, but what does he believe.
Right.
With Paul Ryan, you can be pretty sure that what he says and what he believes are the same thing.